How's it going, everybody, and welcome to How Good Is It Really? My name is Jeremiah.
I'm Luke.
And today we're going to be talking about Episode 1, Chapter 1 of Season 4 of Stranger Things. Alright, let's do it.
Man, yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna run through all of the categories as quick as we can, just so we can actually talk about the episode if you haven't seen it, which I'm sure you have.
Get
I'm
a
sure
Netflix
everybody's
subscription. Get a freaking Netflix subscription for this episode.
Right.
Seriously.
Writing.
This season, yeah.
Writing.
20.
20 out of 10.
I mean, it's a 10. And I know I start at 10 and I usually come down from that. It legitimately is a 10.
I'm trying to think.
This season, coming off of season 3.
And we're just talking episode 1.
Yeah.
That's all we're talking about so far.
And I've watched all the way up to 5. He's finished all of what's available now until, I believe, July, when the final, penultimate 2 episodes that will preclude the actual final season because they couldn't fit everything into 4.
Netflix decides to drop all their episodes at once, we can watch them all. There's no way we're covering everything in one episode.
It's impossible.
So we're doing 1 episode per video, basically, is what we're doing.
Wow, what a comeback from a 2-year break.
Writing
10.
It's amazing. This show's incredible.
It is. It is absolutely incredible. Even better than season 3. And I mean, we're talking about.
I don't know.
It is. I mean, between
it's all really good.
Eddie and the Hellfire Club is just like he stands out. So does.
It's all good.
So does.
There's a few characters that
Jonathan's
we'll talk
friend.
About it. Argyle
is
great.
just amazing. The original cast is all back, including Robin from season 3, who is one of my favorite characters. For sure, yeah. But you can get all of this within just watching a trailer for the first 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody that's returning, the acting is amazing.
9.
And it feels so natural. 9.5 at least.
Okay, I'll give you a half point. 9.5. Cinematography.
Okay. Cinematography.
There's some great shots in this. Oh my goodness, it's amazing.
I love
some of the shot composition as well.
Yeah,
so good.
I think for me, I'm gonna have to give this probably an 8.5. I think
8.5. Okay.
Yeah,
I like it.
There's some really good shots.
Even out those half points.
They do get a lot more grand in the future episodes and the framing and everything. Oh yeah.
But starting out super strong. Editing 10. This is an exceptionally well edited episode.
Especially the bathroom sequence.
We'll get into
with the
why, but there's maybe for sure 2 parts that stand out as just being so good, but really the whole thing. 10 for editing.
Yep,
it's incredible. Score and soundtrack, it's Stranger Things. It's 80s synth and 80s music all day.
Yeah.
And if you're into that, it's wonderful.
But
if you're not into that,
a cheesy way though.
No, it's definitely not in a cheesy way. It's always
believable and
works.
On point. It just works. And it is Stranger Things, so obviously it's set in the 80s.
It helps.
But it's not in over-the-top way where they're trying to go for nothing but member berries. It genuinely, for people that don't care about anything 80s,
does
love
play to the story and what's actually going on screen too. It's not just popular songs from the 80s for the sake of having it in there because it's recognizable, because there's some songs in here that are not recognizable, but
real.
Very appropriate.
Yeah, and at the time of filming this, I believe one of the songs from this season has actually
particularly the first episode recharted
all the way to
40 years later.
Yeah, top 100s for some weird just because it's so good. I mean, we're talking about
shows you how many people are
song.
Actually watching Stranger Things.
Oh, I think this shattered Netflix's season premiere.
I would not be surprised.
Ratings.
I would not be surprised.
It's
at all.
Crazy. It's so good.
9.
Yeah.
I can't quite go 10.
For what reason
9.
though? Can you give me a reason without giving spoilers?
Yeah. Reason being is personal preference. Is while soundtracks are very good, I always prefer scores over soundtracks.
That's fair.
Stranger Things is a combination of both and does both very well. I just have a hard time giving a 10 to basically a curated soundtrack of pre-written music.
Did you notice though how in season 1 of Stranger Things, in the very beginning, it was an original score and they didn't really use any actual soundtracks? It was actual,
right?
It was all an original score, and then they slowly started to phase in soundtrack music as the kids got older, and
but that's my reasoning for not going
Just
10.
as a side note, like I've probably seen season 1 through 3 4 times. Like every episode, I can remember beat for beat moments. It's so good. Seriously, we're gonna just like blitz through this stuff so we can get to it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so 9 for scores and soundtrack.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
That's good. It's great.
Yep.
Visual effects, better than it's ever been. If you watch the previous 3 seasons of Stranger Things, which I assume,
and there's
we
not
all
a lot
have,
of there's not a lot of special effects. There's like 2
there's
sequences
not a
I
whole
can
lot
think
in
of.
the first episode.
Not really. There are 2 spots. We'll talk about in spoilers. For me, anyway, there were 2 spots that really sold it because they are really good. Really good.
Yeah, I think, like you said, we've watched ahead a little bit. There's just no way we're going to talk about
That's
all
not
of it
possible.
in one video, so
Yeah.
we're doing one chapter at a time. But it does get better,
Significantly
but
better.
only because it's utilized more.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like starting out, it's still very strong for what they do. It's just it's the first episode. We're getting back into the swing of Stranger Things,
And there's not as much.
they take their time.
Yeah, there's not as much to do any kind of special effects for. There's a couple tricky camera moments, and some of it's done with practical effects. But there are 2 spots specifically that I'm thinking of where the special effects are just wow. They sold it, and you can tell there is a huge budget for this show.
Yeah.
And it
9.
well
I have a
spent.
feling we're going to go to 10 on a couple more episodes for sure, but 9 starting out. It's
For sure,
It's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
It's great. We were actually talking about this before we started filming with Becca as well.
Yep.
The set deck, costume, and wardrobe.
Oh yeah.
About the either the recreation or the acquisition of some of the things just to make this show happen.
Like,
in either case, it's impressive.
Yeah, it's staggering actually how many vintage outfits, pairs of shoes, members only jackets, the hats, the logos, everything has been painstakingly recreated to be 100% believable that we are watching a 4K television show in 2022 that was filmed in 1986, and it
yeah.
works. It's not.
Having not lived through the 80s, I don't know what it was actually like.
I mean, I've seen my mom and dad's like photos and heard the stories of like my dad telling me about like these, like, I guess like Steve's jacket is a members only jacket, I believe. And my dad wanted one when he was in high school because my dad graduated in 1985, and they were very expensive, and only the rich kids at school had them, which makes sense because Steve's family is loaded.
Fair. Along this lines, my goodness, does Will need a new haircut?
For real though.
That bowl cut, my dude, it's just not cutting it. It's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough at 15.
Yeah. He's looking like a beetle.
Yeah.
It's not. No. It's
That
not
kind of
good.
plays like, yeah, it all works very well, but man,
Mike-
some of the hair is.
Mike looks like an emaciated werewolf. Like it's rough.
It still looks good though.
Jonathan still looks hungover perpetually.
Yeah.
Argyle,
new character.
that he steals it.
It's great.
Every scene he's
Argyle's
in,
wonderful.
He's amazing. For somebody I've never seen in anything else, for the acting that he's doing and the character that he's playing, he reminds me of Pauly Shore's character in Encino Man, and he nails it completely. If you've never seen some of Pauly Shore's original comedies from the 90s, you should definitely go and watch those. But Argyle is like a straight shoe-in for California, just bro.
9.
Yeah, 9. Easily.
Audio mixing and sound design, 10.
10.
It's a
Sound cues are fantastic. The way that they fade in and out, the tension building.
They're replaced. Like, if you listen closely, you can tell the replaced sound effects or the additional sound effects that are layered on top of everyday activities just to give certain scenes and certain moments just a little more attention or
Yep.
punch to help set the tone is wonderful. Like,
Yep.
it's so good. The sound in this is amazing.
It really is.
So good.
Whoever they've
10.
got doing this is like the all-star cast of how to film a television show. I mean, money obviously is the key to this equation, but sometimes big budgets don't mean great outcomes.
That's true. You can have a very large budget and not have the greatest of outcomes. But I don't know how much money they had on season 1. And
I was
season
just
1
about to
still
say
fantastic.
that since, it was a breakout sensational show. I remember when it came out, everybody couldn't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
And it was the Duffer Brothers just came out of nowhere with this random pitch for Netflix, and it was a one-off deal. It was a self-contained story. It had an intro and a finish, and it was just so wildly successful that we're still talking about it almost 10 years later. So
Yeah, it's been a while. Okay, second class category, directing.
I don't know who directed this individual
Neither do
episode.
I. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, we need to know the answer to this. But for real, though, it is so good. It is so good. The creative vision for this episode, the way that everything lands, the foreshadowing for future events, just the casting and the way that all of the original actors have just really come into these characters and made them so iconic. I mean, they're up there with some of the TV shows that, my parents used to talk about watching back in the day, like Stranger Things. I think is my generation or the current generation's version of like Full House or the Fresh Prince. Everybody knew what was going to happen, or at least they were ready for what would happen, and they knew the cast, they knew the story, the backstories, they knew everything about it, and they wanted to know. And that's how Stranger Things feels. It's just that it's just so engaging. And coming off of season 3, I mean, I didn't think television could get better than season 3. I mean, you had everything from Star Wars and Magnum PI to Ghostbusters, everything that made the 80s special and awesome, just kind of mashed together in this just amalgamation of pure 80s meta, and it was amazing with modern filming techniques and a modern storytelling mythos that has just surrounded this show. And then 4, I thought for sure that it was going to just kind of take it downhill. It's going to start to decline. They're right at the end. The kids are starting to age out of the roles.
No signs of slowing down.
Oh, no, absolutely not. It's like they've never been better, honestly.
The Duffer Brothers.
Okay, so they are actually still directing every episode at this point.
So not every. They're directing this episode.
Okay.
And Sean Levy is also back directing a number of episodes as well.
Excellent, okay.
Because he's been on since season 1, I believe, as well.
Okay. So they're kind of trading off with him then, it seems like. Yeah,
so just looking at this, Duffer Brothers are doing the first 2, then Sean Levy's doing the next 2, and I can't see past that.
I mean, the beats for beats, though, guys, you can't really tell that there's a change in direction. These episodes...
And like we talked about before a little bit, where when you have a TV show specifically where the directors have less of an imprint on the show, but in the case like this where the directors are the showrunners, the Duffer Brothers, like the creators and writers of the show, and then Sean Levy, who is also a producer on the show, as one of the directors, like it's just very much their creation as a whole. So it makes sense for the tonality to be just very consistent all the way through.
Absolutely. And the one thing we were talking about before we filmed this is we sat down to do it, and we were like, we can't even film this episode until we rewatch the first episode because everything is such a seamless transition, and the stories are so perfectly meshed together. It's like a Swiss watch. They just everything flows, and we're like, wait, did that happen in episode 2 or was that episode 1?
Yeah, because we've already watched them. It's like trying to decipher which events were in which episode because they all flow together because it's just one big long continuous story. So we just rewatched the episode right before we started filming.
It's freaking fantastic. It's just amazing. I can't get over it. It really is.
A 10.
A 10. C.
And I'll answer the next one for you. Overall enjoyment, 10.
20.
20 out of 10.
For real though, I can't say enough good things about this, and you absolutely should. If you don't have a Netflix subscription, go get a prepaid one of those Visas for like $2 and do a free subscription with a new Gmail if you're cheap, like a friend of mine is. And get a Netflix subscription so you can watch the 4th season. And I mean, we're talking 6 episodes, but from
7.
Is it 7 episodes?
7 episodes. 7 episodes in the first chapter, whatever they're calling it.
9 total. 2 more to release, and they're going to be super episodes, so they're supposedly like over an hour each.
Well, all of these are over an hour each.
So they're worth like
episode 7
2
is
hours.
Episode 7 is like almost an hour and 40 minutes long.
Wow. Okay.
The 8 and 9 are supposed to be over 2 each, I think.
Yeah. No, this is going to get it's going to get wild. Yeah. It's going to get absolutely wild.
Okay. Apparently, we really like this show because it's a 95 for episode 1. Which, it's good.
It's so good.
Really good.
It is so good. And it doesn't decline. It just builds. You wouldn't think there... At this point, you've been to the Upside Down twice, and you have, like, Russians trying to, like, reopen a gateway into the Upside Down in Season 3. Obviously, if you haven't seen it, sorry, there's spoilers, but... It's like 3 years old at this point. We assume every person on the planet has seen this.
We're not giving spoiler warnings for things that are, like... prerequisites for having seen this.
Yeah, that's point. No. So I didn't think there was anywhere left that they could go that would be worth watching. It was like the Byers moved to California. They split the gang up. Like, that's it. It's done. You know, Hopper died.
Apparently
like, we thought for sure that this was going to be like the death knell.
Well, we knew Hopper didn't die. We knew that.
Right. It was hinted at, but we weren't sure. But I will say, I had no idea that it could get better. I genuinely did not know it could get better, and it totally did. It totally got better.
It's really. I don't know if it got better for me, but it's easily just as good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Easily just as good. Okay, so 95. If you haven't watched it, go watch it, and then come back and watch the rest of it.
Sorry, we were just adjusting lighting.
Okay, spoilers from here on out.
Yep. You've been warned. 1, 2, 3. We're getting into it.
Okay.
No turning back.
I took notes. My first note says flashback, Little Badass 11 and murder.
Yeah.
Because that's what we see in the very beginning of the show. We open up with Dr. Brenner,
who is back.
Well, in a flashback, because we're in 1979.
That's true. It is a flashback.
Matthew Modine is back, but we're in a flashback. 1979. Season 4 takes place in 1986, so we're going back 7 years. And
so we're still in Hawkins' lab. This is before the events of season 1 by, I believe, 5 years. 4 years, because the first season takes place in 1984. So that would be 5 years.
Yeah,
1979 to 1984. Yeah, 5 years. And we see a very young 11, and we see some
who is seemingly, we didn't see her do it, but seemingly
murders,
because Brenner was working with one of the other children
with like an MK Ultra program for psychic warfare, and
people start screaming out in the hallway. Door explodes on him, throws him back, knocks him out. He wakes up, walks down the hallway, and all the children that they were experimenting on are dead.
With the exception of 8, who's missing. 8 is not there.
Broken. 8's not there?
8 is not there.
What do you mean 8's not there?
8. The little girl, remember?
Well, yeah, because 8 was already gone.
Right.
8 being, I forget the actual character's name, but number 8 from season 2.
Season 2, yep.
Season 2.
With the weird sign tangent that they went on.
Yeah, when they go off to, where do they go? Chicago?
Yeah, they went to Chicago hunting people that used to work at the labs looking for Brenner, actually.
Yes, actually, yeah. So 8 wasn't there, but you had all the other numbers, I assume.
And they're all dead. Mangled.
All, bones broken, bleeding. It's
what is seemingly a psychic outburst from 11, who we know is the most powerful of the children, but presumably, they don't know that at the moment. Presumably.
Given that she just appears to have murdered them all, it would seem that way.
Yeah. So, and then it just jumps forward in time to 1986 to the Byers' new home in Eleanor Hills, I believe. Lenora Hills, thank you.
Lenora Hills, California.
Which I believe is fictitious, having grown up in California.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's real or not. But apparently it was filmed in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But for the sake of the show, they're in California. And
my next note right there says, 11's letter, good exposition.
Yes. We just get Captain Explain, who gives us a kind of a brief overview of kind of the events that have transpired over the past 185 days.
Yep, she says in their letter that she's writing to Mike, this is day 185, so we know how long it's been since they've gotten there, and giving us a little, like I said, just refresher on everything, reintroducing us to life in Stranger Things. So it was good.
It
was nice, clever. That's a good way to do
months.
Exposition, where it's not somebody talking at you, it's someone speaking to another character
explaining a gap in time that is relatable to the fact
that kind of plays a little bit where it's it's really for us, but it also makes sense for her to be writing like that to Mike because that's actually how she speaks.
Right.
That's actually her.
And I mean, she's talking about going to school. She's making a diorama for her class. She's going to do a presentation. Just some really normal stuff, and then we see Will with his god-awful haircut, and Jonathan, who is hiding a newfound passion for marijuana, with his new friend Argyle, who is the funniest new addition to this show since the addition of Robin in season 3.
Yeah.
Robin was just a breakout star in season 3.
Robin's great.
Argyle and Eddie are the new additions in this show, and so we kind of get a brief overview.
made a note here that I think is important. At least it was to me.
Okay.
Because, like, 11 having grown up in a lab, seemingly somewhat of a simplistic approach to how she sees the world.
Very.
Because she just does not know any different, has no life experience to actually base anything on. So the concept of lying
Yeah.
is not something she's overly familiar with.
Yeah,
and
she
they
obviously
even had
very
that
averse.
conversation in, like, the first, I think, 2
Friends Don't
seasons
Lie.
about the whole friends don't lie thing in that. And she explicitly lies to Mike.
Through the
The
entire
entire expositional
Yeah.
part is her talking about how much fun she's having, all the
Everybody's
friends she's
so
making.
friendly.
Everybody's
and
nice
everybody
to her.
hates her.
Yeah, that could not be further from the truth. So I just wrote, she's learning to lie.
Yeah.
Because that's all she's doing.
Getting
Like, she's
socialized to
just
the,
trying
the climate that she's in.
trying to make Mike think that everything's okay when really she hates life. Like,
Yeah, just desperately trying to fit in a school that clearly has ostracized her as being very different, and it is painful to watch.
Angela sucks.
Angela's awful. I'm
my goodness.
so glad that certain things
I
happen.
want her comeuppance more so than what happened. I want.
I like her with it. I have such an intense like dislike for this character that it man, it's up there with like who were
So
Steve's
props to
friends.
props to the actress.
Yeah, you're
For being
nailing it. Being,
so dislikable.
You suck.
Wonderful.
Character
Love
sucks.
to hate you.
Exactly. Like Billy. Oh, he was bad, but she actually reminds me of Steve's jerk friends from season 1 that like break
like-
Jonathan's camera.
Yeah, the one his but I
douchey
don't
friend?
remember his one guy friend. I forget
Yeah,
his name.
yeah.
Was on the team with him. But yeah,
Yeah, that guy.
the
I
guy
hated
that
him too.
immediately abandoned him as soon as Billy got on the scene.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that guy.
yeah. It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, a little bit, but we're seeing some drama unfold in her life, which is a new thing. And Will is clearly like either hiding feelings for her or has like some sort of something going on. But he's acting weird apparently. But then it shifts.
I have a theory on Will.
I do too. I'm
But
not
I will
sure.
not. I don't want to share it here. In case I'm wrong.
Yeah,
By next episode, we'll know a little more. But yeah, I meant to.
Yeah.
I told you I would tell you what I noticed in the episode,
Yeah. Okay.
and I forgot.
Okay. No, you did afterwards. Okay, so we're
Yeah,
moving on.
I'll
So
tell you.
basically, then it jumps back to Hawkins, and we see Steve and Robin, who are the most
I just wrote,
organic
"Yay, Robin!"
pair of friends ever. There is so believable, and you're just watching them talk about their life as they're going to this this pep rally.
Yeah, pep
for
rally
the-
like 7 in
for
the morning on a
championship
Friday. Like,
basketball
oh my
game.
goodness.
Yeah, and it's just so relatable as you hear them talk about everything that's going on in their lives, and it's not.
And the different girls that
They're both
Steve's,
into, and
like
it's-
trying to go on dates with, and like trying to get Robin's opinion. Robin is too preoccupied to care because she's got,
Completely.
I forget the name of the girl that she's interested in.
The trumpet player, I can't remember her name either, but
Clarinet player. She's a clarinet.
clarinet player, thank you. But just
Robin plays the trumpet.
that's right.
Yeah.
I am not a classically trained musician. He's the one that does all that. I just play the
bit.
guitar. But basically, it's just everything about those two people is so organic, and they mesh so well. Wonderful actors and amazing script, just stellar script, and the way that the music escalates as they're getting this pep rally, and you're getting more excited for them. They get to the pep rally.
And right before
Yeah,
we
go ahead.
continue on, I had one of again, I'm just taking random notes. I was watching the video, like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. I just wrote, whip pan, cool. Ted's awesome.
Yeah.
The whip pan from Ted and the mom over to Nancy in the doorway is just like the transit. The editing, like I said, we gave it a 10. The editing
Stellar.
in this show, and there's more to come, is amazing. And yeah, Ted,
The dad,
what's their last name?
Wheelers.
Wheelers, that's right. Yeah, Ted Wheeler.
I love that
Is
they've
the
like
secret,
progressively.
like, best character in the show. Like,
They've
in
given
the
him more
background.
lines every single episode, and
But not like he has like 5 lines every season. or
yeah,
something. Like,
but they're always so good.
what I do. Still my favorite. It's just when everybody gets up and leaves the dinner table, he's just sitting there.
Yeah.
What I do is so clueless. Love Ted.
Yeah, he's great, and who could just get over those big Coke bottle glasses? Just the ever present, just long suffering father, and Mrs. Wheeler's obsession with perms. is getting
Continues.
out of control.
It continues.
Clearly getting out of control. She looks like she's about ready to go debut for some 80s hair metal band. It's getting a little out of control. Clearly, there's some midlife crisis going on
that's
there.
Eddie.
That's true. Eddie does.
Eddie's up for a hair metal band for sure.
Yeah. Well, and he's even got a band, so that's and a little self-deprecating
Corroded
humor that's in
Coffin?
there. Yeah, great name for a band. And for the whole crowd of 5 drunks at the local bar. So, having played gigs like that, I can tell you,
start somewhere.
Gotta start somewhere.
Pep rally.
Yeah, pep rally. So, I mean, we see Lucas for the first time after we've been reintroduced to Dustin, Steve, Robin, Will, and Mike, and now Lucas, who is on the basketball team, is becoming more of a stepping into something different, more out of the culture of his nerdy friends, and we see a little bit of tension there where he wants them to go to the championship game. They want him to come to the final campaign.
It's the end of the campaign for the Hellfire Club.
Yeah, for Eddie's
Their D&D group.
Right, and Eddie, who is a super senior, and the head is the DM for their D&D group. And he has basically handcrafted this crazy campaign that they're all super excited about, and they're all these nerdy reject kids.
Yeah,
and
they're at the finale. They're at the final,
right at the end,
part
right?
Of the
and
campaign.
so they're trying to, and then they go on this montage of asking a bunch of different people to fill Lucas's spot because he can't do it. We don't want to spoil too much because genuinely, even though it's a spoiler section, I'm not going to tell you. You need to watch it.
I'll tell you.
No, don't tell them.
But
just make them watch it.
I do want to point something out though.
Okay.
Another note that I wrote down, which is one of the confusing parts of the episode where I'm like, why is this happening? I wrote, why is the player talking?
Right.
When the captain of the basketball team gets up and gives this whole long speech in front of the school, I'm like, why is he talking? Why are you here?
Who died?
This
and
does
made
not
you
feel
God?
right.
Yeah,
you're supposed to be standing
Coach is
over
not there. The principal's not there. This dude's Mike's unoccupied. I'm an attention whore. I'm gonna give a speech.
Yeah, and standing in front of the whole school, talking to his girlfriend, I love you, Chrissy.
Yeah,
just ugh. It felt
Level
weird.
9,000.
It was just dude, sit down.
But
sit down.
It was done in such a believable way that it makes sense, and it was cringy. We've all been to high school. We know that guy. He exists.
That part bothered me just because part because of the cringe and part because I don't believe little unbelievable. I know.
Yeah.
In a world where there's alternate dimensions that we
that
can
guy's
open up portals
professional love to
and
the
monsters can come through and devour us. It's no.
Yeah.
That guy talking in front of the school. That's the unbelievable part.
Right. The mind flayer was more believable than this guy's speech, where he's I'm going to pontificate on all the deaths of all the people so we can win this game, and which they do go on to win with Lucas scoring the winning shot at the exact same time that his little sister rolls
Erica.
a perfect 20 for the D&D campaign while Dustin's about ready to give himself a hernia from
seriously.
anxiety. Just, guys, the editing, the acting, the pacing, the songs, everything, and the first 45 minutes of this episode is some of the best acting, writing, and editing I've ever seen. It's good. It's so good. And it gets better.
And Joyce has a new job.
Yeah.
She sells Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yes.
So she gets to work from home, just call people all day. She's one of those people.
Yep. But this was before the car's extended warranty, so it wasn't quite as creepy back then.
Did you guys have a set of encyclopedias growing up?
My grandparents did.
We had a set of encyclopedias growing up.
Yeah, that's. They just sat on the bookshelf. They just existed. I thought they were
actually
part
read
of the
through
wall.
them.
That makes a lot of sense.
Shut
That
up.
makes a lot of sense. So, the episode just continues to get wilder and wilder. But one thing that I will point out is that for as high as the notes are with just the overall feel of being excited for these characters, and you feel like you're being welcomed back as much as they do. And they're right on the cusp of going to spring break, and everyone's excited to travel across the country to see the buyers.
And then you remember, this is Stranger Things, and things get real.
And they get real quick.
Yeah, and before things get real, at the end, I wrote, Max is messed up.
Yeah.
I love Max.
Yeah.
Max is my favorite character in the first episode.
She's great.
Just 100%. And yeah, she's messed up because she has some severe PTSD from watching her brother get killed by a flesh monster.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like
definitely.
as much of a douchebag as he was, like seeing people get murdered in
was
front of
still
you could mess
family.
up a kid.
Right, and we also learned that her dad ran out on her mom, so they had to live. They're now living in this crappy trailer on like the crappy part of town where all the bums live.
Just a trailer park.
Yeah,
Just a trailer park.
I mean, you don't realize
From
how
someone
nice.
that has lived in trailer parks.
It's funny because I was talking to my wife and I realized, I was like, honey, you never realize like you're poor until a trailer park trailer is like, they've got more room than I do. So just side note, yeah, being poor is fun. But anyway,
But yeah, Max is
it gets real
really,
so fast.
really going through it, having like flashbacks to seeing Billy die.
Yep.
And experience headaches.
And she's just
and
totally
insomnia.
internalizing all of it.
Yeah,
And
meeting
then-
with the camp counselor and just like not saying a word.
Right, and we also see that Chrissy, the girlfriend of the attention whore team captain,
Jason,
that guy, who looks like Fred from
Scooby Doo.
yeah, a really douchey Fred.
A little bit. You're not wrong.
And so basically, this guy, we don't really see too much about him. He becomes a much bigger part of things later. But Chrissy is really the focus of episode 1, and we see that she is really dealing with something really crazy, and she starts having visions of her. What there's a little bit of discussion between us two. We're trying to figure out like exactly what triggers these. We're not going to get too much into it, but essentially she's going through some stuff, and she's getting visited by the monster that you see in the trailer. So it's not giving anything away there.
Right, this weird Emotep looking dude.
Yeah, yeah. And
That's the first thing he reminded me. Tell me he did not remind you of Emotep when he first appeared.
Straight
You
up.
saw his face. Like, no, that looks like the Mummy.
Yep.
A little bit.
Yep.
Just a
And
lot better graphics.
yes. And so we see that she is. She comes to Eddie, the D&D DM,
Yeah.
looking for drugs.
Yeah,
Because she
wanting to
thinks that she's
buy
gonna
some weed to try
to get rid of these visions because it's messing her up.
Yeah.
Clearly, she's like
That's
puking
her
her
goal.
guts out in the bathroom, which is we're not sure if it's from like bulimia or if it's that she's just like I
See,
personally think that's because she's having like these visions and she's sick because
And
of
I
it.
don't think it is. And we'll get into this a little bit. We'll just go ahead and do it. I think it's more either bulimia or
It's anorexia, yeah. and
anorexia or bulimia. I don't like.
believe bulimia is the one where you make yourself vomit
Okay.
because of body issues, and anorexia are people that can't help it. They're just like Mike is anorexic.
Okay.
The kid is like looks like a skeleton.
Okay, so probably more bulimia, just because a lot of her visions and things that she's experiencing having to do with her mother's voice telling her that she's like, opened up the back in her dress so she can fit better, kind of thing. And like when things start turning dark, her mother's voice turns into the monster's voice that's screaming at her about how fat she is, basically, and trying to shame her because of that. I think at one point the voice says, "Let me in or I'll gut you like the fat pig you are." Is what the voice says. And it's like it's her own like internal demons that are kind of like rising to the surface. There is how I interpreted that, where it's like it's more of a bulimia thing, the throwing up in the bathroom.
That's definitely there. I'm not entirely sold, only because
I could be wrong. That's how I'm reading it, because it looks that way, but it very well could be something else that we just don't know.
Obviously, it's not giving anything away to tell you that this happens to other characters, and we're not going to tell you who. Yeah,
the whole visions thing, not the throwing up.
Yeah, the visions thing. And I personally think that it's more to do with, like, some sort of external trauma, which I get that the whole, like, bulimia thing is definitely that way for her. It just seemed to be more of, like, an external, like, traumatic experience. It seemed to, like, make certain people more susceptible to this psychic invasion that seems
Becca
to
made
be
a good
happening.
point when we were talking before we started filming about whoever this creature is seemingly preying on people where the content of their trauma isn't necessarily the important part so much as the fact that they haven't overcome it. They haven't
Or
gotten
they're
past it.
slaves to
They're
it, and it's a
still
window
caught-
to
yeah,
their psyche.
Exactly. They're just become more susceptible in that way.
That would be more plausible because of I'll talk to you about it later.
Yeah.
Avoid giving
We'll get
spoilers
there.
for future episodes. But basically, it gets real and it gets real quick. It's like a roller coaster going downhill at Mach 1. Basically, after the big game, Lucas is on Cloud 9. He sees his friends. They ditched and didn't come to his game.
Going back to the game real quick. The editing. This is another one of those parts.
Yeah.
The editing between the basketball game with Lucas
And the
D&D game with Mike, Dustin, Erica, and Eddie. fantastic.
Yes.
Like it's just edited and shot
and Lady
so
Applejack,
well with how
Erica's
they
D&D
parallel
character.
to one another, and it's just so good that like Lucas gets to make like the game-winning shot right as Erica gets like the nat 20 on a roll to like crit hit the Vecna and win. Like it's just so good.
Everything
it was
about
so
it.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's perfect. And it's paced so well. And then you're coming off that, basically, and then you see Max's really poor living conditions.
Yeah.
As she gets the radio announcement that she was listening and waiting to see whether or not the
Max
game
and
would...
Lucas broke up.
Right, but clearly she's still
just
thinking
going through
about
some
him.
stuff.
Something, because she was listening to the radio broadcast when it came on, and she waited till she heard that Lucas made the winning shot, at which point she turns it off to go feed the next door neighbor's dog, which
and like
apparently
her
some
mom,
animal cruelty
like,
going on.
Her mom was kind of in a bad place too, because it's like her stepson dies, and then her husband
Ran off
leaves
on her.
them,
And
now
you hear
she's
that she's
working
working
two jobs
yeah.
and is drinking almost constantly when she's not working.
You really feel for
And,
them. You really
yeah,
do. And she's living in a
tough
crappy trailer
situation.
in the trailer park. Anyway, Max goes outside and sees Eddie, who lives across the street, in a trailer with his uncle. And he's brought Chrissy over, basically for the more intense drugs that she asks for. Basically, when they first meet together to purchase the marijuana, she basically says, do you have anything stronger? And Eddie basically... you don't really like get like any implications. He's like, oh yeah, I've got these hardcore drugs, but basically it's implied, and then it cuts away to some other stuff, and that happens. But we see them, and then as Eddie's looking for the drugs, Chrissy has another vision, and it gets wildly out of control. And this is where some of those practical effects that I was going to talk about earlier, they get crazy, and there's some really intense graphic images. If you have children, I don't recommend you let them watch this portion of it at all.
I was going to say children should not be watching this show, but that depends on like the age of the child.
Yeah.
Everybody's a child.
And not only that, but like season 3 was pretty mundane by comparison. Season 3 didn't have a lot of like supernatural stuff in it.
As far as the intensity of the violence.
That's true.
Where that's
fair.
The violence hasn't gotten
too graphic
and more than it was previously.
Right.
But slightly more graphic and more intense and just has more weight behind it now for some reason.
Yeah, it definitely, and I think it's because it's a lot more intimate. It's less
Sure.
of a broad sweeping stroke where like somebody just gets like swept away by like an arm of a monster or something and hits a wall.
Like no, you see them get hurt and it lingers for a while.
Yeah, and it's more impactful. It really is. And so basically, this is the part where Vecna, basically the new villain, invades her mind and basically kills her remotely, but basically
after she has a vision, because
Eddie,
the way her visions work when he's like trying to get a hold of you is it's all in your mind, so you basically like freeze in the real world, kind of like how Will was in the field in season 2.
Exactly the same way.
Very similar to
eyes
that,
roll
where you
back,
just kind of freeze, your eyes are rolled back,
dead
and it's
to
all
the world.
just in your head, and she sees another vision
and then she
her
levitates
mom
off
first.
she levitates off the floor.
Yep.
And it's like, whoa, this is gonna
She
get
sees
dark
a vision
quick.
of her dad, who has his eyes and mouth like sewn shut and bleeding.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's just like, her fear just spikes to the absolute maximum, and then she's killed. Basically, she just gets violently thrown to the ceiling like something out of The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And her bones in her arms, legs, jaw are systematically broken in all of the most uncomfortable ways to watch. And then her eyes are literally pulled through the back of her head into the inner portion of her skull while Eddie is watching and
freaking out,
losing
his mind. Oh my
crap
goodness.
on the floor right there, and it really plays for the terror of the moment. So you've got like this absolute maximum, and just immediately, and that's the end of episode 1, and basically you just have that awesome high that everyone's coming off of, where you're back with the gang, you see everybody, and people are doing well. People are happy.
The campaign, they just won the game. Like everything's good.
Life is
Mike
great.
is getting ready to fly out to California to go see 11 and Will for a week during spring break, and like so much is good. And then I wrote,
it just
Chrissy
gets dark.
is messed up. Oh, she's gone.
Yeah,
that's
and it is done in the. I mean, it really just sets the tone moving forward from there.
It does. 100% does.
My goodness, just the rest of the show just builds off of that in the most spectacular ways, in dynamic ways too, where it doesn't just rely on the horror of a repetitious killing to drive the narrative. It really has dynamic points that really other characters in the rest of the show don't have any exposure or interaction with those same kinds of events at all, and their stories are still so magnetic you just can't stop watching.
You know what? I've been debating in my mind whether or not to bring this up because it's just a theory and I don't know, but theories are fine.
Go for it.
About Will.
Go for it.
So I told you that I noticed something.
Was it his painting, kind of like the weird way it was framed?
Not his painting.
Okay.
His presentation that he doesn't give. So they're preparing for a presentation in class.
And he was doing an art. He was doing a piece of
wasn't.
art.
That wasn't it.
Okay, what was he doing then?
You missed it.
I did. I completely missed it.
And
I didn't see him bring anything into class.
He did. He was carrying it to school.
Oh man, I totally
And I was
missed
able to
it.
read the poster as he was walking, and I saw what it was.
What was it?
And all this will make sense eventually.
Okay.
Do you know who Alan Turing is?
I know that name. I need to be reminded of like the context that it's in, but I know that name.
So Alan Turing was one of the code breakers that worked for British intelligence to break the Enigma code.
That's right.
during World
I
War II.
remember that.
And the Turing test is the test given to artificial intelligence because that was kind of his baby, was trying to create a machine that could think, the machine that eventually broke the Enigma code.
Yeah, and didn't he actually go on to work on, wasn't it Colossus was the name of the computer that actually broke the Enigma code machine?
Not maybe, 5 years after the end of the war, he committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
Reason being is he was outed as being gay.
Right.
Which was a crime at the time. So rather than serving time, they gave him the option to be chemically castrated, which he chose instead. And then a year after that is when he killed himself.
Yeah.
Will's presentation was on Alan Turing.
Right.
And I think they're leading towards
Will being gay.
Will being gay, which was hinted towards last season.
Yeah.
Last season, 2 seasons ago?
I think it was
Actually,
2.
they've hinted towards it a couple times. So it's like, it's a pretty solid theory. Like, nobody's surprised by this. But that was one of the things like, his presentation on Alan Turing. And Alan Turing was gay. And everybody knows that.
Right. And his reaction to the girl in class, too.
Right. Because there's this girl that's like rubbing up against his leg with her foot. Like, trying to flirt with him in the middle of the class.
Yeah, and he's just like
not into it.
Yeah,
it's like,
pulls away.
He's clearly more into guys. Clearly.
Either that or he's pining for 11. And because she is dating Mike, he can't say anything.
That is an option.
We don't know.
It's possible. I think it's more likely that he just ends up being gay.
I guess.
Just whenever they decide to finally reveal that.
That would seem a little bit... if they did that, I'd be like... Kind of an eye roll moment, because you already have one openly lesbian character, and so they would just introduce another character just for the sake of having another gay character.
Well...
Okay, I guess.
Well, the only thing for me at this point is it doesn't matter if they have two gay characters, it's just...
They didn't make a big deal about it with Robin. Like, she's just a lesbian. Right. Okay.
Which is why I don't see them making it a big deal with Will. So... Because his painting is clearly for Mike.
That's true, because he did grab it and take it with him.
Right. We don't know that yet.
Oh, shoot.
For sure.
That's right.
For
that's
sure.
Right. But he did that. Okay,
it's probably more for Mike. So
forget I said
my theory is like it's just like no, Will is actually gay and he wants to be with Mike, but Mike's with 11.
That actually makes sense. If that's the way that it is.
That's the way I think it's playing, which is like I don't expect it to be any kind of big reveal because it's like I think most people kind of assume that at this point. Like, oh yeah, that's like Will being gay makes sense.
I hadn't thought about it until this episode. That makes sense.
That's what I think is kind of going with a little bit of a love triangle between the three of them.
That would be
where it's not a big deal so much that he's gay. It's just
that's the thing though.
It's just the dynamic that the three of them have as friends and trying to
I hate it when
deal with that.
When TV shows write characters to be defined by immutable characteristics. Who you're attracted to makes no difference. If you're a lousy written character, your character sucks, and it has nothing to do with whether or not the character's gay or not. It has everything to do with the fact that they're written poorly or acted poorly, typically written poorly. But with Robin...
But in the show, it's been great.
It was It was fine. It was you know, whether or not you are for or against that sort of thing, Robin, her character, incredibly relatable, super likable, one of my favorites in the entire show.
Yeah, like you said before, Robin's dynamic with Steve, like their friendship that they have.
Oh, it's like
so good.
Freaking peanut butter and jelly. It just goes together. It's perfect.
Like peas and carrots.
Yeah, it's just so funny. And see, episode 1's freaking stellar.
Yeah,
so good, so good.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I don't know if I have anything more to say.
I don't really either.
I feel like we kind of like blazed through it, but it's been like almost an hour.
Yeah, it really has, and it feels like that. You probably don't feel like that if you've been listening to us for an hour. Seriously, thank you for sticking around for the entirety of the video. If you have a comment, please let us know down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Hit the like button if you feel we've earned it, and hit the subscribe button and share it with your friends and family. If you didn't like the episode, thanks for sticking around anyway. And I'll just turn over to you.
Yeah, and if you are listening to us on Spotify, if you would give us a follow and leave us a rating there, that would really help us out. And yeah, we'll be back with more Stranger Things next week.
Oh yeah, we can't wait to share our thoughts and opinions on the rest of the show with you guys. So
Definitely.
We got plenty more Stranger Things content for at least another year to 2 years. I mean, depending on when season 5 drops. So
oh my goodness, yeah.
Stick around, guys. It's going to get real. We'll catch you on the next one.
Later.